In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Loving Father, we just thank you for bringing us together in person and virtually. And we just ask that you continue to guide our hearts, especially through this discernment process, through this college counseling process. And may we be reminded of the gift of parents during this time of college decision making. We just ask that for continued blessings, and we praise and thank you for all that you do. Amen. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen.
Thank you. So, and thank you for joining us tonight. We're so fortunate to have our parent panel behind us. We have Michelle and Peter Hoffman, and we have Phyllis Athel. They have both current Edsman, and then they have Edsman who graduated. So what we'd like to do tonight is have them explain their journey with each of their sons and talk about how they were different or maybe the same or anything else they wish to talk about. And then we'd like to open it up to questions. So if there's something you would like to know, please, Alicia, would you like them to chat it, live chat it? Okay, just throw a question in the live chat. And our experts, and if you could please direct it to one of them or to all of them, that would be fantastic. So without further ado, our parent panel. Would you like to start?
Peter and I are the proud parents of 4 boys who are 5 years apart. Just for a little background, I stayed home for 10 years with them when they were little, and they've attended Catholic school from K-8 and now St. Ed's. So there are some budget restrictions when we start looking at colleges. Joshua graduated in the class of 2017. He was an A student, did not do the IB program. Not a real big fan of standardized tests. Started with 22, but with some test prep got up to a 26. So I do recommend that. When he's a runner, he was very active and social on campus and campus ministry, student ambassadors and stage groups. He did not know what he wanted to do when he left here. When we were, proud, excited parents with our oldest to make all the mistakes with their oldest child. So we booked the college trip in April, where we go look at colleges. Josh, we have to figure out what's going to be a good fit for you. And when we booked the trip, we were looking at architecture and design colleges. And when we actually took the trip, we looked at nursing colleges. And Josh eventually found and discovered a fashion merchandising program at Mercyhurst College that he got very excited about because it would allow him to study in New York with the Fashion Institute of Technology for a semester. So he did apply to that program, but he also applied to the Kent State program back in Ohio that was ranked second in the nation and allowed him to have the opportunity to study in either Florence or New York. So ultimately, he chose Kent over Mercyhurst because it was a larger campus. It had more social opportunities for him, cost less money, and we still had those travel opportunities. What we learned from Josh is that we actually need to spend more time figuring out what somebody would like to do, exploring careers, putting them on the table, taking them off the table instead of just exploring colleges. We learned that it's kind of important to do something different, maybe between junior and senior year, that you can write about in your essay. We had trouble coming up with what he wanted his essay to be about. And if Josh were to do it all over again, he would choose to do a general business degree over a fashion merchandising degree. However, he has graduated a semester early. He's got a great job with Home Depot, and he's very happy right now. Matthew was the class of 2019. He was an A student and did the IB program with a lot of passion. A strong test taker, started with a 28 and got it up to a 31. He was a performing arts kid. He wrote an essay about his drum corps experience, spending 8 weeks sleeping on gym floors and carrying around a bass drum all day. He was very strong in math and science, and this was directed him into engineering. He applied to 7 schools. It was accepted at all 7 schools. It came down to a decision between Ohio State and Case Western Reserve University. And in the end, he chose Case because it was smaller. He had the opportunity to take music lessons with CIM. And they also had a Bachelor of Science degree in analytics that was in the engineering college, so he could switch between that and engineering majors, we thought, pretty easily. So of course we threw away the bowl with the second child. We had to do public state, and we let Matthew go to Case. As a result, Matthew does pay part of his tuition and is taking on a small loan every year to make that possible. As decorated as our children are and try to be, I have found and learned that parents need to drive this process all the time. It is not, with all the things that they have happening in their immediate life, it's very hard for them to focus on the future. So the way we got Matthew through all those applications was waking him up on Saturdays and Sundays at 7 o'clock to get that done. And one other thing we learned from an engineering standpoint is IB or AP credits in physics and chemistry do not count when you're pursuing an engineering degree. All engineering schools want you to take their chemistry and physics. So enjoy high school, go to high school to go to high school, go to college to go to college. Don't worry about getting those credits because it's going to transfer anyway.
Sorry, I just wanted to look like we
Okay.
So those were the first 2 of our sons. The next one is Andy. He was in the class of 2020. He also was, he was actually an A+ student, and he took the IB program. He scored very well on the ACT, ended up with a 35. And he had an opportunity for the Cleveland Clinic internship program over the summer between junior and senior year. And he wrote his college essay about that. And it was kind of interesting. He started it out talking about his struggle for putting compression socks on an 80-year-old woman who was like, just wearing nothing but a bed sheet. But that idea of having an experience over the summer to be able to write about proved to be really, a good thing. It helps create an essay that can stand out. Andy, right now, he wants to be a doctor or anesthesiologist or something like that for quite a time now. And so right now he's pursuing a chemistry degree in undergrad. He applied to 8 schools as well and got accepted, I think, to just about all of them. He ended up in Boston College. We ended up visiting all of them. He got accepted, everywhere but at Case. He was waitlisted. But we visited a lot of schools and we applied for a lot of different scholarships, merit scholarships and that. We applied early admission to both Case and to Northwestern's med school. There's programs where you can, if you're thinking about going into a degree in medicine, you can apply early. Those programs are really, really exclusive. He did not get into any of those, but he was invited to interview for 4 different full tuition scholarships at various schools and ended up earning 3 of those and eventually enrolled at Boston College in the, it's called the GPSP program. Some of the things we learned about Andy's is, grad schools, medical school, law school, those professional schools like that, they don't accept AP or IB credits either. So my personal takeaway, IB has been very helpful from teaching rigor and we like the theory of knowledge and all the different items like that it brings. I like the program. I'd recommend it, but you do have to keep your mindset, depending on what your kids are going to go into. At least my kids, it's not like they're going to earn all sorts of college credit and graduate early and all this, because if you've got really, if you got kids that are really into learning and are taking IB, when you get to college, you're going to want to retake those same types of topics probably, but, obviously in your field of study with the university that you're with. Fourth child, Thomas, he's in the class of 22, so we're hip deep in the process one more time. He's also a good student. He's an A student. He is taking IB because he's the fourth and he won't be outdone by any of his brothers. Unlike the others, he's really an athlete. He's on the distance running team, so he does both cross country, indoor and outdoor track. He's really not sure what he wants to do. He's considering ROTC one day. He might want to do something in business. He's really enjoying, the business classes in IB. He's talked about maybe becoming an FBI agent. He also, because of his athleticism, is really interested in physical therapy. So we're gonna have to still kind of ferret through those different interests. And I guess the takeaway or the lessons learned from this one is we're still learning as well. Every one of our kids has been different. They've taken us in different directions, and so in many ways, I talk to them a lot about, we're going to be fair to each of you, but fair is not equal. So like, oh, you're going to this kind of school, or they got to go out of state, or I'm in a less expensive school, or okay, that's all great. We're working really hard to try to make sure that you all get your best experience, your best crack at this. That won't be identical for all of you because you're all different. We have a handful of overall lessons learned. Should we hit those? We kind of got them already.
I think we did.
Okay. Thank you.
You're up next. There's some sound issues. That's why I keep checking the mics. Don't think I'm being a weirdo. I mean, I am.
Hello, good evening. My name is Phyllis, and I have two boys who've attended St. Edward High School. I presently have a senior, and I had one graduate last year. So I have had experiences with two different years, two different eras, the pre-pandemic college search and the post-pandemic college search. They have similar experiences like I do. Talking about college prep, this was my first child and this was my first experience in the United States of a child going to college. So it was all very new, but the counseling department was very helpful. They usually come up very early in the year with a program which breaks down, gives you kind of a timeline, what you should do by September, what you should do by December, and that was a very good guideline for me. And there is also a meeting with your student and the counselor that helps you organize the child's interest, the kind of schools. You may have certain schools in your mind, but sometimes the program the kid wants to do goes well with certain colleges. So I want to say the counseling department was really helpful to me. I had their cell phone numbers, I have their emails. Every minute I text them or I email them. I will talk about the post-pandemic era. We had the opportunity to have college counselors or admission teams come visit St. Edward on different days so the kids could go talk to the different schools. There were also college, college fairs that we also attended. We were able to get information about the schools, tuition, and other things. We're also able to visit these schools physically. We could spend a day there. We could see how the students behaved in school, their meals, their dormitories and stuff. So that was really helpful in making a choice. Unfortunately, for my 2021 student, we haven't been able to do any of such. It's all been virtual, but it's also been helpful because you can do a one-on-one. So I'm going to compare two experiences. My 2020 student was Jaden. He was an average and slightly above average. He was a good student. He was in most activities. He tried sports, but he never made it to any team. But he tried so many things. He tried basketball. He was fully engaged in so many things. He also went for community service programs. And I realized that is a very important part of college search. Sometimes it's not even about the grades. Your service, your extracurricular activities is so important. And we applied to, I think, 10 schools, and he got into all schools. In choosing schools, I think you should, that's what I did. I grouped them into 3 sections: the high-notch schools, schools that I think I will likely get into, and schools that I know that they would surely get into it. So we made sure we applied like 3 or 4 schools in every sector. It could sound a lot, but most of the schools do not charge you application fee. So why not try it? And we got accepted in all schools. Sometimes parents want kids to be in a particular school, but we have to listen to our kids and see where their interest is. So at the end of the day, after getting into Welsh, BWU, all the schools that I really like, Ohio State, he decided he wanted Ohio State. We did not get into the Columbus campus, but he decided to go to Mansfield OSU for 1 year. And next year, this year in the fall, he can relocate to the Columbus campus. So that was a nice idea. I would recommend it. I really like the campus. It's quieter, and they have a lot of attention for them. So that was my story with my first kid. My second student is presently a senior. So he's also doing the IB program. But for this year, the IB program is an advantage to us because he couldn't write the ACT because of this pandemic. And most of the schools are going test optional. So it's really been good for us because the schools are now looking out for students who have challenged themselves because the IB is a high rigor program, it's intensive. So for every school that we've applied to, we've received very favorable responses. He's been accepted into Case. That was the only school we did early action. And Johns Hopkins, Notre Dame, all the schools, and BWU, every school he applied into. So when he realized it was going well in his favor, he decided to apply for the Ivy League schools. So we've now applied to 3 Ivy League schools. And so far, we did an early decision. So we wouldn't hear until 6th April. But so far, we've received interviews from Harvard, and from yesterday, we had an interview from Yale. So it seems to be going well. I remember one letter from Notre Dame saying, you stand out as one of the brightest and something students in our pool. So I would recommend AP classes and IB because you never know. They might stick to test optional, or it could be anything. Also, extracurricular programs has been good. Most schools look out for that. They look for leadership, they look for engagement, and they look out for things that you have done, commitment to school stuff. I remember in his junior year, he decided to take a job, both of them, I'm sorry. Most of the time they do things together when they were here. They decided to take a job on campus. So they decided to join the cleaning team, maintenance team. So after school, they were cleaning classrooms, every day cleaning the compound. When there were events, they would help set up. They were doing it for income as well, so they were happy to have money. But that taught them the value of money. It also taught them humility I remember sneaking on one of them's interview, and he said, it taught me that you should respect the janitor because he's somebody's father, he's somebody's brother, and if they don't do this work, we will not have a clean environment. So it taught them a lot of things. On the whole, the college experience has been really great, and I'm enjoying what I'm getting out of it. I still have a sixth grader, and I'm hoping he will also come through this process as well. So that's what I have for now.
We are recording this and we're gonna upload it. We've been having some technical difficulties. You probably saw us back there on our phones and we're fixing. A lot of people could not get into the live stream, and so that's what we've been trying to deal with. Did you get that fixed, Alicia?
We're working on it.
So anyways,
So can we record what we said?
we're recording all of this and it will be on Power School. Oh yeah, you don't have to.
Start over again. And so tell us about Joshua one more time.
I am glad you brought up testing, especially. So here's what I'd like to start with is if you can talk a little bit about the pressure on the kids who had to test and tested versus what you see now. Like, how is that different? And do you have a preference? Whichever one of you wants to start.
I think you could probably speak better to it because you're back to back.
Like to back.
Yeah.
Okay. So testing is quite stressful because you are looking for a score, not only to get you into school, but a score that will get you a scholarship. So, and it's hard to get the kids to study. They have all the resources, SAT, ACT, but they are busy with final year and busy with stuff. So I would recommend that a student starts taking it in the junior year. That would be very helpful. There are so many classes around. They aren't cheap though. I remember enrolling Jaden for 2 of the classes. It helped him. It made his score come up by 4 points. I think we ended up with 25 or something. So that helped us. But I was just on him. He was doing SAT, he was doing ACT. So eventually I was advised by the counseling department that look at where he's doing better and just concentrate on them. I don't find it a waste paying $45 or $50 to get a scholarship of $10,000 at the end of the day. So I may have had him do too many. He did like 5 or 6, but at the end of the day, I only used 1. There was one time that it was good all through. There is the opportunity to super score, so that can also help. You can get a 27 in English one time, and you can mix it with another score, and you'll get to understand it. Yeah, so they can be the super scoring. For Johannes, he's such a great student, but he's not a good test taker. He did a couple in junior year. He had a score of about 20. I think when he super scored, it's like 27. But for the kind of schools he was looking for, he needed to get a 31 or 30. He wants to do medicine. He wanted to do the kids PPSP program, the pre-med guaranteed program. You need like 32. You need to do internships. Unfortunately, because of the pandemic, we could also not do that internship. So we didn't apply for the PPSD. We applied for regular Case Western pre-med, yes. So it depends on the student, but score most schools say that they look at admission in a holistic way. So the most important thing is for the kid to show progress in his grades from freshman. If they see that the child is doing better, they can look at all those things. And I don't know what kind of letters the counseling department writes. I wish I could see one, but they accept all our students in all the great schools. So thanks.
Yeah, I'd like to build on that, and I want to start out by really tagging on what Phyllis said about the resources in the counseling department. You guys are great and appreciate all you do. So when it comes to the testing, this is my opinion. I'll let Michelle speak for if she's got different thoughts on this. We did pay for some test prep, and we did bring some scores up. I'm personally relieved that they're not, or testing is becoming optional. I've heard that that's, I want to say maybe it was California is like just saying, forget it, we're not going to do that anymore. Not just this year. And I think I like that for a couple of reasons. One, it's just different. It feels like it's a big industry, it's a big machine. And so obviously when things are established like that, they can start to go awry a little bit. And I worry for the folks that can't afford the time or the money to be able to, put a lot into the prep. And so I'm sort of glad to see that it's going away for the two reasons. One, to hopefully make the playing field a little more level everywhere, and then also just to kind of mix things up in general. You want to add to that?
So when it comes to testing, one of the things that we've definitely seen with the pandemic, my husband knows I hate testing so much for a lot of the reasons you actually mentioned. Like it frustrates me. However, one of the blessings, this is what he reminds me, is that we've seen so many schools go test optional. And many of these schools have gone test optional, not just for our current seniors, but for the classes of 22 and 23. So this is really going to be kind of a game changer in the industry, if you will. And it's going to be it's a hot topic for sure. So it's going to just be interesting to see what evolves in the next 5 years or so in regards to testing, and the impact it'll have on admissions, scholarship money, things like that. So testing is definitely a hot topic. Do you have any advice in regards to the college essay and how your sons may have worked through their essay process? Did you even know they were writing an essay? I figure I'm loud because I'm next to the mic.
So as I said, I think parents have to be heavily involved in this process because these students are devoting all their time to what's happening in their current high school life, what's happening in school, what's happening in athletics, what's happening in extracurricular activities, and of course they want to have a little social time too. And so as I said, I believe strongly that they should spend a lot of time on the essay. I did know that all of my children were writing essays. I did ask them multiple times if they had gotten them to an English teacher, if they had reviewed them, and I did read them too. And my biggest thing is I keep thinking about the thousands and thousands and thousands of applications that come across an admissions desk, and what are you going to put in those few 500 words or less that's going to make them want to read it. And we were not, I don't know if we were as successful with the first child because I can't remember what he wrote his essay about, but I know that the next one wrote his essay about sleeping on a gym floor for 8 weeks and carrying the weight of the bass drum for 12 hours a day. And that's how he started, like the mad hot sun, 12 hours a day holding this drum, and my back hurts from sleeping on the gym floor. That's kind of like interesting and attention getting. And then he followed it up with some lessons that he learned. And then Andy, he had that opportunity to do the Cleveland Clinic internship once to go into med school, and he came home with his essay talking about putting these compression socks on this 80-year-old woman, and I just laughed and I just loved it, and I was like, okay, so I think somebody might read that and might remember about a teenage boy trying to do that. So my biggest recommendation there is do something fun, different, and unique over the summer, and you have to start out not like a thesis. You have to start out with something that's going to grab them right away in the first couple lines and then kind of get to the thesis. So I I did review it. I made them write it a lot of times, and they probably don't like me for it, but that's what I did.
Maybe we invite Mrs. Hoffman to come back for the essay workshop.
This is probably a good point to remind people that we have a couple of other programs on Power School, and this one will be on Power School. Jim Kubaki just did a college essay workshop, and it was excellent, and that's on Power School, so, yeah. And the other one is Finding the Right Fit he did for us, and that was excellent as well. So, do you have another question? Oh, you have to answer that question. Sorry for this.
You're not out of the college essay yet. You could be running the next workshop too.
So college essay, with Jaden, it was my first time. Oh my God. So I thought he used an experience, something he had overcome. And fortunately, his English teacher, I think it was part of their school lesson. So he had to do it. But it was very stressful because he was so busy. He didn't get it turned in time. I would read it and I would say, no, this is not good. He would come show it to his teacher, and we kept changing it here and there. So at the end of the day, I gave it to another teacher, neutral. I think I gave it to Mr. Knight, and then he looked at it. I said he should look at it from that perspective, and he helped us out with it. So Jaden did it again, and it was marked by Mr. Zetsa. I can never forget that teacher, Mr. Zetsa, college essay. So he really helped him with it. He started early, but then it dragged, but we got it done. So I was hoping with the next kid, I would do it early. For some reason, we didn't. He was always busy, and always busy with activities, with schoolwork. I have homework. Then he started. But with his, he didn't have it as a class. So it was just me and him. But like she said, he used an experience at Bishop Cosgrove, one of his community service. And it was very passionate, his experience there. And I thought that was touching. So just like putting on something on an 80-year-old, it touched my heart. He never knew children could be homeless too. And he was thinking about how come they don't have a stable place to stay. So they can use anything unique. It could be from their community service, it could be from a field trip, it could be from their personal lives. But I'm so glad Mr. Kubaki is now having like a workshop. It will be a good guide to help the students.
Didn't one of Joe Hellis's acceptance letters have a note that said something about his essay?
Yes, so Notre Dame noticed something unique about his essay and service, and he was selected as a semi-finalist for, I can't even remember, semi-finalist for something, Kira Talent something, to, what was that? I can't even remember, so many.
To apply for a scholars program.
Yes, he was admitted to apply for a scholars program, and it was based on the fact that they had noticed his unique community service plus academic progress. And this is not only for one school. Ohio State, everybody is saying apply for scholars program, community service. So it looks like it even plays a bigger role than the grade itself.
Right?
So, yeah, extracurricular, yeah.
And you bring up a good point about service too, because so many students think that scholarships are all surrounding athletics. And although there certainly are athletic scholarships, there's actually quite more service-based scholarships than there are athletic, but most students don't. Or talent, yes.
Talent.
Versus that. So we always try to remind the guys there's way more out there than you realize.
So yes, the community service is really amazing. I think it's part of the reason why they notice his application, because obviously all the kids who apply to those schools are smart enough and have good grades. So community service is great.
All right, Hoffmans, you're back. I know you touched on this, but 4 boys, four very different processes, right? How do you keep that balance and reminding them that they all had different a different process for this? Or are there battles?
Do you want to do the fair but not equal?
Well,
I know you mentioned it.
I touched on equal or fair, but not necessarily equal. You know, I think we each, both Michelle and I, each shouldered some of the, you know, I call it the, you know, the burden, the work that's involved to try to do this. And, you know, it takes like some persistence, you know, whether it's the essay was one thing we talked about, but even just the reminding them that they need to think about this. What do you think you want to do? Like recently with Thomas, we had him talk to some family friends who were in lines of work that we thought he would probably want to know about. But that was still, even that was like pulling teeth. That was as hard as the college essay. We'll call them, well, whatever, yeah, well, you know. And so it's intimidating. I think I look at the kids and they seem so old and mature, you know, in this school and, you know, driving here or doing all the things that they do here. There's so many opportunities, but they're just kids still, you know. And so it's hard to keep them, you know, motivated. So someone years ago in one of these college workshops said to me, you know, you have to find the fit. It was probably Mr. Kabaki, but I remembered that, and I think about it when I try to read, you know, and critique my own kids' interest, try to help them in that discernment process, and then kind of put ideas out there with them. And I try to be real practical. Like, I've actually gone on to like the Bureau of Labor Statistics site to see like what jobs growth, what's the growth in this area, or where would you have to live if you wanted to get into this, as well as of course finding like, you know, what school or what employers you might have.
So I do live in fear of my children coming back to me and you let this child do this and you said, so, you know, we started with Josh. We said it has to be public and it has to be in state so that we can afford it. And the very next one we said, no, okay, you can go to Case and you'll have to put in some extra money and we'll have to do a loan. But those were two different kids. Josh, very social, needed a big campus, got all the opportunities that he wanted. He has no regrets. He has not said he has any regrets. Matthew is more introverted, needed a smaller campus, wanted the music option, maybe even wanted to be a little closer to us. So yeah, we looked and we said that Case was going to be a good fit for him. And it is a great fit. If I haven't said that yet, it's been a great fit for him. It's a bunch of engineers who like to play music together. I mean, he could not have found a better place to be if he wanted to. And Josh, you know, understands that Matthew's putting in more money in order to be able to do it. Like, we talk about that a lot. Like, no, Matthew's paying part of his tuition. No, Matthew's doing. And then, you know, then we said everybody had to be close and in state. There's plenty of great schools in Ohio. And Mrs. O'Riordan said, Andy, I think Boston College would be a good place for you to apply. And the big envelope arrived on the porch, and I was like, oh no, I think we have to go visit Boston now because he's been invited to interview for the scholarship. And so we let him go 10 hours away, and now he can't even fly home, and it's still a good fit for Andy. So I think.
So what I hear you say is Thomas is going to St. Andrews in the UK.
Yeah.
He's international.
Thomas wants to go to California. Yeah, because we let Andy go to Boston. So
Because it's far away.
And so
It
far.
just seems like to keep up with the trend.
Yeah, and so far there's no backlash, but maybe 10 years from now there will be. But I think, and then for anybody who's going down this path for the first time, like, it's all going to be okay. There are a lot of great schools out there, and I think once a kid enters a school, it's not like they're looking back. They're so entrenched in what they're doing in school-wise and getting involved and making the best of it. They don't look back. So like as a new parent, you're going to all these campuses and you're worried about like, are they going to be safe? What's the meal plan going to be like? 12 colleges later, you're like, they're all safe, the meal plan's fine, like, it's going to be okay, and they're going to find their niche and they're gonna move on. So I think it's, every search is different, there's no right way or wrong way to do it, and your child will end up somewhere where they can be successful as long as they're willing to work at it.
I just want to add, I applaud all the parents that are involved. I was first generation college, so my parents weren't as involved. I mean, and so I think we can look at it from a little different perspective. You know, whether, you know, your son is first or not, multi-generation, you know, being involved, I mean, it seems scary, but there's a lot of support out there, both from the schools and of course, you know, from St. Ed's, and from, you know, the fact that there's carved out counselors to just help with the college search process and all that is so helpful.
I love that you said that about the parents, because parents make our jobs so much easier, as well as more rewarding, because we're doing a better job because we got an assist with the parents, by the parents, right?
Yeah, and so I guess I've coached CYO with kids for a long time, and one of the things I learned is if I want my child to know something, I want to impart something to them, I'm the last person that should tell them. And so it really is kind of a team effort, and I would do this, you know, there were multiple coaches on those teams, and my kids were on those squads as well, and I would go and tell another coach, hey, you know, if I tell them it's the dumbest thing in the world, you know. And so having, you know, the team like the college counselors here and having other teachers and peers really, you know, leverage that. It's a team effort. It's a strategy.
It's funny because one of the things that we do is we feel like they get sick of hearing us tell them, even though we know what we're talking about. So we bring in college admissions.
Sure. Well, yeah.
We're like, maybe if you hear it from this person, you'll believe me when I tell you this.
That's because I heard years ago, as a general rule, people hate authority, but they respect experts.
Okay.
Do you have a follow-up, Miss?
No, Phyllis, did you want anything?
Okay. So at the end of the day, it's all good, but affordability is also an important thing. So I will just advise that you look at your family situation, and then sometimes you have to look at the value you are going to get out of a particular school and the cost, and balance it. So you may need to make a certain choice that might cost you more, but just look at the value and always try to get as much scholarship as you can. I know the counseling department helps us with a list of scholarship. Go Mary, College Board, College Now. Ms. O'Darion is always posting it to these boys' email sites. They don't even open them and click. And it is money. So my plan for this spring is to go into his email, and each one I see, he's going to sit down and apply for them. I've had a first experience that I missed out on a number of scholarships, and it's not easy. So I'm going to make sure that this one, so you can also get the scholarships from the website of the individual schools. There are so many different ones in there. Could be 500 here, 1,000 here. I know our boys don't like writing essays, but it is really worth it. So this is the little advice I have.
Hoffman, can you share a little bit about that financial scholarship piece and trying to figure out that aspect of the search? We were just saying how oh yeah, we really didn't hit up on finding scholarships or that process.
So I will say I don't know that we have concentrated on writing for all of the essays that the college, for all that scholarships that the colleges have offered. So we've gone on each college website, tried to find out what scholarships applied and make sure that we didn't miss any of those. And really that took, at least I felt, all the time that they had, or all the time that they were willing to work on it. We did not do a very good job of applying for a lot of externally sponsored scholarships. So maybe Thomas will have to suffer and he will have to write for a lot of those. But every college that we went to, we did do a pretty intense search to see what was available and made sure that they applied to all of those.
Yeah, I'd like to add too that, there's a couple of ways to think about it. One, you go like, oh, it's only $1,000 scholarship and the cost is so much. And it's like, yeah, but if you spend an hour working on this, you might get paid $1,000 an hour for that hour. But because the cost of the college versus the scholarship seems off, you'll run down the street to get 50 cents off a candy bar and think that that's a better financial deal. So you can try for them. But one of the things that struck me when we think about the finance of it, when our oldest was going, we were like, it's in-state, it's, nearby. And it was to try to control the cost. But as we've gone on and experienced these other students and other schools, it almost doesn't matter what the cost of the sticker price is, because there always seems to be, it's like worse than buying a car. It's like nobody pays that. There's always this, oh, we got a discount for this, or you get a merit scholarship for that, or we look at financial need and they'll put some grants in. And so in the end, you hear these ridiculous prices for schools, like, oh, this school's got tuition at $75,000. And you're like, what? But then if you kind of like work through it, it's like, well, it's only a little bit more than it would be to go to the local state school. And I'm like, okay, so as we go forward, you can apply to where you think the fit is really good. We're not trying to find the most expensive thing. But I did one time tell Andy, I'm like, there you did. You did it. You found a place more expensive than where Matt went. So, but I mean, that's the sticker price in the glossy pamphlet.
Right, so, two more things, a comment and a question. Going Merry, I don't know if you guys can hear me, Going Merry, MERRY, is like the Common App for scholarships. So you should definitely do that. One of the coolest things about that site is we can send them local scholarships, like the HUDAC demo. And when you create an account as an Edsman, it will throw this into the mix as something you can apply for. So it's really, the scholarship search engines are so much better than they used to be. And so more time efficient, so Johannes won't have to spend 10 months at the computer. So,
Well, that's a great comment, yeah.
then the other thing I was going to say, or ask, did you do any net price calculators? And if you did, how did they compare to the packages you actually ended up seeing?
I think we did a lot of net price calculators on schools as we were going to visit them in the car, but I don't think we ever went back and did a comparison between what that said and what we eventually applied for.
I didn't find them very useful.
Yeah.
They take too long to fill out. It's like, oh, and ours is real easy. It's just these 4 questions and then these 11 other screens. And it's like, forget that.
Maybe it's
So have you done any recently?
No,
Okay. So
maybe they're better.
Okay, parents out there, I'm looking for some volunteers because it's my understanding that some schools have dumped a lot of money into that function and they are better now. And so if you can just give us some feedback so we know what's what. I know some of them really did spend money, like John Carroll, and so theirs is supposed to be very good. But also, I don't know how that's been affected by COVID.
I have one other comment. Maybe everybody knows this, but like kind of a pro tip. When doing these essays, you fill them out in the Common App and you fill them out here and there. Like keep copies of all your essays, like in a big Google document or something, because then when you find that, like that one more scholarship, it's not an hour to go write another essay, it's a lift from somewhere else and maybe just a tiny edit. Now, maybe everybody's doing that and I finally got the light bulb, but.
No, we actually do tell the boys that though. I always say, work smarter, not harder. Like, you're writing all the time. Save it. You might be able to use it.
Right.
So you're right, you're on. That's exactly what we say. No, I don't know if they do it. But,
So, I guess, do you guys have any other questions? Because I was just gonna see if there's just anything else you want to leave us with, any thoughts, anything we didn't ask you that we should have asked you. And then I guess we'll wrap it up.
So, Mr. Dyer, just to talk about the net pricing thing. For me, it gives me the confidence to apply to a school that I think is very expensive. Because I remember doing it for 2 schools like Yale and Princeton, and the price it gave me was less than Ohio State. Those were one of the reasons that made me say, hey, let's apply for it. Obviously, private schools give more money. Some of these big schools have big endowment funds. Usually, if you have your EFC amount, you get quite close to the net pricing they give you, and you'll be amazed. Like you said, it's just a sticker price. You can see $75,000, but you may end up paying just like as an in-state public school. So don't be scared. Give it a shot. That's what Mr. Darren told me, and I think I'm overtaking you now. Okay, so that's it.
And those would be no loans, wouldn't they? Those programs, if you got in,
No loans.
no loans. Yeah.
I have like 1 or 2 other just things that I've learned that I'm just sort of amazed about. One is, we're on the 2nd, 3rd school now. Paid over time. They'll set up a lot of times a program where you pay over 4 or 5 months or 10 months or whatever it is. Expect to always be wrong. I've never been right yet. So I'm counting like 4 kids, 8 semesters each, 32 semesters that, you got to end up paying for. And I'm never right. You get down to the end. So you have to like make a bunch of estimates, it seems like, of what it is it's going to cost you. And then you have to divide that up yourself and start earlier than they'll even tell you to start paying, or otherwise you won't have a monthly program. And you'll end up just having to pay it all at once. The other one is your child's 18, they're an adult, they're at the school, you get to pay the bill, and you have no right to know anything or do anything else about it, except if you keep their password or ask them to be an authorized whatever, or user or viewer of the account. And I don't know, that's sort of the rules of signing up for it. That's table stakes in our house. So like, hey, we're helping with that. So you have to make us an authorized user. And then you can see things like grades and you can understand what the bills really are. You don't have to go through them. And the schools will talk to you. But it's really frustrating if you don't.
Yeah. Same thing with hospital bills. They're getting surgery,
I'm sure,
but you're
yeah.
not allowed to know anything, but they want to make sure you can pay.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Anything else? Phyllis, did you want to add
I
anything?
was saying that I think in one of the counseling meetings last year, I had a parent say that you could do price match, like if you have 2 schools in the same category, and you really want to go to one, like you want to go to Cates and you have Notre Dame giving you a better price, you could go and talk to them. I really want to come here. This is the price. I hear they look at such things. But it has to be schools around the same category, like Ohio State and another, maybe Miami, something like that. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It's like a bargaining thing.
there are few schools, very few schools that will actually come out and say, bring us your other offers, and if you have a better offer, we'll match it. Carnegie Mellon is one of those.
BW is one of them.
Right, and
Very
so,
much.
so there aren't that many. I think so Claudia Wenzel from John Carroll does our Paying for College program, and she always emphasizes that they come out of the gate with their best offer from the get-go.
They are good.
And although it seems to me that oftentimes when parents say, I'm having trouble affording this, is there anything else? They usually throw them like another 1,000 or even 2. So, my only caution is that you will be working with that financial aid office for 4 years or 5 if they're longer. And so just use your very best diplomatic skills when you're doing it, right? Because that's an office you really don't want to irritate.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Anything else, Lauren, or should we set our parents free?
Yeah. We will be, so this is recording. We will be posting this. We do apologize for anyone that could not log in. So fortunately, we are recording it. And obviously, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to your college counselor and we will address that. But yeah, for some weird reason, just some people could get in, some couldn't. It seemed to almost be connected to the SEHS account. We're not really sure, but I am worried Miss Watts won't be able to sleep tonight because this is going to bother her. So we will have answers. We will fix it. And we are grateful for everyone's, partnership, as you put it so nicely, in this process. So with that being said, thank you, parents,
Thank you.
so much for being here. And look we even have parents that are saying thank you. Oh, yeah, I'm wondering if that's it. No, thank you for being with us too. Appreciate it. Okay, have a great night.
Great. Good night.